We have seen hell, we have seen heaven, the worst and the best of places. And now we move on to what lies in between, the earth, and more specifically, the paradise. So, what is it like? Who live there? What happens to them? How does the Christian history of mankind begin to take shape? Let's find out today in this analytical synopsis of. Do you remember where we finished book 3? We saw Satan bowing down to Uriel and flying towards paradise. When book 3 ends, we are left with Satan, and when book 4 begins, it begins with Satan. Milton first laments the loss that is about to engulf humanity. He wishes if only Adam and Eve could have avoided the trap that Satan was placing in front of them. We first see Satan coming down and alighting on the top of a mountain, and from there he is taking a good look at paradise. And what does he see there? He's filled with doubt when he looks at this beautiful place. He thinks about his past glory, and that kind of reignites his anger that God has been really unfair to me. And there is this very interesting regret in him. He begins to think that, oh, had I not been so powerful, had I not been so mighty brave, then I wouldn't have, gone into this mess of a revolution, and then I wouldn't have been thrown out of heaven. And then he's thinking that in that case, someone would have been there, brave like I am, and then I might have been just a follower, and in that case also I would have fallen. So he talks about fall as something quite inevitable for him. And when he was in hell, especially when he was talking to Beelzebub, he was giving this impression that the mind in its own place can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven, as if they can think that this, whatever is looking like hell, can be seen as heaven if their mind believes so. But in reality, he realizes now, sitting on the top of that mountain, that he can never be out of hell. He carries it within him. And Milton says, the hell within him, for within him hell he brings, and round about him, nor from hell one step no more than from himself can fly by change of place. He has come to paradise, but he has carried with him the essence of hell. So hell is not a physical reality here. Hell is more like a spiritual condition. To be damned means not to be sent to a place, not to be bound by any physical boundaries, but to be chained down by your despair. And that is why he could actually fly out of hell. Because God knew that even if he flew out of hell, he would carry hell within him. He cannot get rid of his suffering. So he first thinks about repentance. What would happen if I submitted to God? And then he begins to think that I hate God so much, it's impossible for me to even think about submission anymore. And the irony is, God knows this. Satan realizes that God knows this and God has no mercy for me. So the only course of action for him is to pervert God's goodness. And God's goodness is symbolized by God's creation, right? And he says this out to himself, which is kind of an echo of what Milton has already told. I had just narrated that part. And he's saying, which way I fly is hell. Myself am hell, and in the lowest deep, a lower deep. So when he is in hell, inside him there is even a worse hell, which is even lower, still threatening to devour me opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven. So compared to the spiritual hell, which he is suffering, the physical hell in which he was residing a few moments back, few minutes back, few hours back. That is like heaven. Oh, then at last relent. Is there no place left for repentance? None for pardon left? No place for him where he can have some pardon. And this is a very pitiable state he is in. And well, we might even begin to believe that Milton is trying to give us some insight into what's going on in Satan's mind. And whenever we are given some access to any character's mind, we take it for granted that we are asked to kind of be in empathy with the character. And that is why many critics have felt that Milton was of the devil's party without knowing it. Now, he, of course, knew everything he was writing. First of all, I don't believe that he didn't know what he was doing. He wants us to look into the entirety of Satan. And he believes that even if we look into the entirety of Satan, even if there could be traces of redemptive quality, we will be able to understand why he is Satan and why he is evil. This was his stand. Now, when he was having this kind of internal debate, his face kind of betrayed him. Okay, there were shades coming up, envy, regret. Now, he was, remember, he was disguised as an inferior angel. That is how he deceived Uriel. And he got access to this place. Now, angels don't have these emotions of envy, regret, bitterness. Angels are always angelic. So when Uriel saw that this person or angel who just went there is showing these kinds of strange emotions on his face, then Uriel realized that this is none other than some really evil person, really evil angel who is trying to deceive me. And he recognizes that it is Satan. So Satan reaches the border of paradise. It is surrounded by thickets, thick bush, and there's this wall. And beyond the wall, there are tall, beautiful trees with heavenly odors. So it is not exactly a place which is secured with barbed wire or electric fences. It could not keep someone like Satan out. He could easily jump over, right? And he does that. So he leaps over, and here Milton compares him to a prowling wolf who has come to prey on domestic animals. And then Satan changes shape because he knows that this place is filled with different kinds of creatures. So if I start changing my shape into some kind of creature, then I will not be identified. Okay. So he becomes a cormorant. Cormorant is this huge bird. So you see, there is this gradual transformation. First, he was this mighty rebel angel, Satan, in front of us, and then he becomes this inferior angel, and then he becomes a cormorant, which is a huge bird, still majestic, but still it's not angel. So there is a gradual deterioration in status, that in the way he is adopting these different kinds of deceptive personas, appearances. And this bird cormorant is also a predatory one. The wolf is a predator. So he is compared to these predators who cause harm. Okay, this is the general perception. And Milton is always very consistent in his epic similes, that whenever he is describing Satan in terms of any kind of simile, be it Leviathan in first book or the prowling wolf in this one, there is always an element of negativity associated with that kind of apparently harmless comparison. Okay, so that is the beauty of his epic simile. And cormorant is kind of considered to be a greedy animal or a bird who eats a lot. So gluttony is one of the cardinal sins of Christianity, and therefore Satan is associated with a sinful creature. So anyway, he looks down on paradise, on the Garden of Eden, and then there's this long descriptive passage on the geography of the place, and they are some of the most beautiful passages. Okay, if you read through them, you would realize that Milton is best in his lyric abilities. And what is very striking about these passages is that the way in which he is giving you one visual after another, that you completely forget the fact that it's a blind man speaking to you. And that is his speciality, his extreme power to recollect every beautiful thing he has ever seen in his life when he had the eyes intact. He's bringing them and he's condensing them into this paradise of light, of beauty, of brightness. And a lot of images that he uses here, they are derived not just from his personal experiences, especially experiences in Italy when he was out there having a nice vacation, but also from his reading of Spencer, of his reading of these beautiful passages of nature. All right. I do personally also feel he has an influence of Chaucer on him. Anyway, we see that here there is a culmination, a combination of, on one hand, personal experiences, on the other hand, literary experiences. And he is able to bring them all together. His memory is that strong. We must give him that. So then Satan, after looking at this beautiful place, he observes two very noble looking creatures walking on two legs instead of four. And they are shining, with the image of their glorious maker. What is interesting is that when we are looking at Adam and Eve for the first time in Paradise Lost, we are looking at them along with Satan. So Satan is allowing us a kind of a glimpse into what Adam and Eve looked like. So somehow the narrative is filtered through his perception, and it has this uncanny feeling about it that Satan is showing us Adam and Eve. And he notices the difference between the two creatures. He notices Adam and Eve. He doesn't know their names, but he can see that they are different. How? He says, not equal as their sex not equal seemed, and then this sex or their identity is different, not because of any physical element. So when Milton is narrating, he is not saying that Satan could detect any difference between the bodies. He says that Satan can detect a difference in the attitude. So here, gender becomes something, you can say it's a performative thing. You perform as a man, you perform as a woman. And this entire idea of gender being a social construct, sex being biologically given, this everything, comes into play in these words. Not equal as their sex not equal seemed. And why they did not seem equal? For contemplation he and valor formed. What are the two words you are getting here for Adam? Contemplation, valor. Contemplation means thought, intellectual capacity, the ability to reason, and valor, bravery, courage, masculine superiority. That is man. And then she, what are the two words we're getting here? For softness, she, and sweet, attractive grace. So Eve's femininity is about softness and sweetness. They do not sound that noble. So from the very first moment, we are given this distinction between what a man is and what a woman is. This makes people think that Milton is a misogynist. I don't have anything to object to that. They have a point, But again, Milton's own life perhaps resulted in that kind of woman hating or distrust of women in general. We have seen such things happening even when he wrote a play like Samson Agonistus, where he showed Delilah as the devil who was responsible for Samson's weakness. That's a different story. We'll come to that someday. So here we see woman as representative of softness, whereas man is representing intellect, reason, stability. All right. And what else he observes? He observes that this woman, or this creature who has this soft, graceful thing about her, she is very submissive to the other one. Okay, so Eve is very submissive, as if she is inferior to Adam. And they are naked without any sin or shamefulness. Now, Satan shouldn't have actually thought anything much about it, because animals didn't wear clothes, and angels, I don't know, they were clothed in light, not material things. So the idea of clothes, the idea of body as a site of shame, these things were not there in the minds of angels. So evidently, in the pre-fallen state, human beings, or rather Adam and Eve, they were not conscious of the idea that the body can be a shameful thing. If you display your body, it is a shameful act, and therefore it has to be clothed. And therefore, they were pretty happy the way they were. And they were walking hand in hand. They rest beside a fountain, eat fruit, drink from the fountain. So they're having a very good time. And wild animals were playing around them innocently. Even lions and bears, who are predators, they are also, they look very tame and almost vegetarian, so they don't harm them. So everything looks like a perfect place. As the sun sets, Satan is speechless at the beauty and innocence. And this is a very beautiful moment in the book, where Satan is actually showing admiration for beauty. And we are seeing that he's capable of admiring beauty, even having compassion and desire. But he is overpowered by his revenge, his sense of, disdain for God. He says he could have loved them, these creatures. They are so wonderfully divine. And he says, gentle pair, ye little thing, how nigh your change approaches. So there is a note of, feeling bad. He is seeing it as a collateral damage, that I have to corrupt these beautiful things. So for one moment, 1 second, he is capable of seeing them outside the fact that they are created by God. Okay. And he says that your change is approaching, and it's a pitiable thing when all these delights will vanish and delivery to woe. More woe, woman suffering. The more your taste is now of joy. So now you're enjoying, but very soon everything will be gone. And then he says, hell shall unfold to entertain you too. Because see, he is at the same time feeling envious that they are enjoying this paradise and I am given hell. I will give them hell too, because I am given hell. And he says, hell shall unfold to entertain you too, her widest gates, and send forth all her kings. There will be room, not like these narrow limits. Paradise is a small place. Hell is a large place. Because God probably knew that he will have to accommodate more people in hell. So he created it as a bigger place. So Satan says that not just you two, your entire generation who would come after you, they would join you there. So he is kind of talking to himself and showing that his resolve is very much there, that he is going to corrupt these two. And he knows that he has to know more about them. In order to corrupt somebody, you have to know about them. And this is this famous theory of Michel Foucault, the new historicist, who says that knowledge and power, they go hand in hand. Okay, so if you want to exercise power over somebody, the power to influence, the power to change, the power to corrupt, even the power to improve somebody's life, you need to have knowledge about them. Okay. And therefore, Satan knows that he has to know about these two in order to be able to understand how to, cause any harm to them. But he can't just go there as Satan. So he again takes up these deceptions. What does he do? He sees that wild animals are all around them. So they are not suspicious of the wild animals. The wild animals are not scared of them. So he changes shape one by one. He becomes one of the herd, and then he becomes a lion and the tiger. And he goes on changing shape, and he reaches very close to them. And Adam and Eve, they are just sitting there. They don't realize that the creature closest to them is actually somebody in disguise. Okay. So Adam speaks to Eve. He thinks that nobody's listening. And whenever Adam speaks, he talks about praising God for his blessings, and he doesn't complain about the work that they have to do, because they have to work also. It's not that everything is free. They have to take care of the weeds and the garden and even the animals at times. So it's their responsibility, because they are the, you can say, masters of this place. And he reminds Eve of God's condition that you should not eat from the forbidden tree, the fruit of the forbidden tree, and there will be death as a consequence. Eve agrees with him, and in the words of Eve, we see that she admires him a lot. And here, Eve recounts her first memories, whatever she remembers about the time when she was born. Now, usually we don't remember what happened when we were born, because we are born as little children, like babies. But Eve was not born as a baby. Eve was born directly as Eve. Adam was born directly as Adam. They were not human born. Eve was born to some extent, you can say she had some element of human source, because Adam's rib was used, one of his ribs was used to make her body. So she recounts whatever she remembers about that day. And she says she was waking up amidst flowers, and she saw herself, and she was confused, definitely. Who I am, where am I, what is this? And then she goes to this pool, okay, pool of water. And when she looks down, it's like the story of Narcissa, looks down and sees that as an image, and she falls in love with that image. So, see, Milton is again working with the idea that women are always in love with their faces, and they are very self-conscious, and that's a kind of a hit at women also. Anyway, so she was very much in love with her own image, and she had this kind of desire, and there's this hint of an unholiness here. And then suddenly there's a voice which tells her that you're looking at that image, it's just an image, it's nothing real there. Okay, and says that voice tells Eve, what thou seest, what there thou seest, fair creature, is thyself. So it is yourself that you are seeing. With thee it came and goes, but follow me, and I will bring thee where. So this voice is asking Eve to follow it, so that she can reach to a place where no shadow stays thy coming, and thy soft embraces. He whose image thou art, him thou shall enjoy. So I will get you to this place where I'll give you a real person to love, inseparably thine. To him shall bear multitudes like thyself. So the first order she gets is to make babies, like women were thought to be baby making machines. Some people still think that, pitiably so. And it is presented as the doctrine of Christianity, of many institutionalized religions, I'm sorry to say. So Eve was given this instruction that you will enjoy his company, you will give birth to babies, and thence be called mother of human race. So Eve obeyed this voice, and she came and saw Adam. And first she was scared, but then Adam kind of convinced her into believing that no, he was the one. And Eve first thought that that image in the pool, that was better. So somehow we see that Eve's persona is from the very beginning presented as impulsive, as curious, okay, and is more akin to emotion than to reason. All right. And the way she awakes in the shade, she is not waking up when she is first born. She's not waking up in light, she's waking up in shade. And for Milton, shade is always very suspicious thing. He doesn't like darkness much. So she is also away from God's light. And therefore, she is inferior to Adam. So Milton gives all these hints and symbols in order to establish these points. He's not always very direct about it. Anyway, so they are having these exchanges where we see that Eve is, well, she's very much enamored by Adam, and they kiss. And they don't kiss with any lustful feeling or desire, but they kiss with innocence. Okay. And looking at that, how is Satan feeling? He feels like this: sight hateful. He hates them when they kiss because it makes him remember how lonely he is. Sight hateful, sight tormenting. Thus, these two imparadised in one another's arms, the happier Eden. And this is how, again, Milton is making such beautiful parallels. You remember, I was talking about parallels between Satan and Christ? Here also, we have a parallel. Satan carries a darker hell inside him. Adam and Eve carry a brighter paradise inside them. So it's like hell is a spiritual place, paradise is also a spiritual place. It is a literal place, like it's a real geographical place at the moment, but it's also a condition. And Satan knows that even when he's going out of hell, he's carrying hell within him. And therefore, there is this kind of a statement here that maybe Adam and Eve will also be able to carry the paradise with them even when they walk out of paradise. Because following the logic that Satan is going out of hell but still carrying hell with him, then why not? Adam and Eve, they have some special paradise inside them. That paradise perhaps remained. This is just a speculation. Okay. Now, Satan feels like this: while I to hell am thrust, where neither joy nor love, but fierce desire among our other torments, not the least, still unfulfilled with pain of longing pines. Unfulfilled desire is hell. So long as he is lonely, no matter where he is, he will always be tormented by these hell of emotions. So Satan is emotional, isn't he? So out of this conversation between Adam and Eve, Satan understands some very important things. One, he learns about the tree of knowledge, and he finds a way to harm the pair. That, okay, this is the way I'm going to cause some disturbance. And then he's also confused. And we might also be confused about this thing. This is the central confusion of anybody who questions the idea of forbidden fruit. And what does Satan say? Knowledge forbidden. Suspicious. Reasonless. Why should their Lord envy them that? Can it be sin to know? Can it be death? We all ask that question, don't we? How can knowledge be linked to sin? And that is so pertinent a question, especially in context of the idea that Milton was writing when he knew about Galileo. Of course, if you knew, you would die. But did he approve of that death? So here we begin to understand that there is no straight answer to the question, is Milton from the devil's party? Milton is making Satan ask questions which are lying deep in our hearts. We are afraid to ask them. We are afraid to challenge religion. Satan is not afraid. That makes him heroic, does it? So this is a very complicated situation here, where Satan is asking you logical questions. That why is it sin to know? Anyway, if it is sin to know, if that is the way to harm them, I'll try that. But he needs more information. He needs more time to plan everything in a foolproof way. So he cannot do anything right away. Okay, we'll have to wait for his next moves. In the meantime, Uriel, who had identified Satan on that mountain, he had gone to the stony gates of Eden where Gabriel, superior, even superior to Uriel, Gabriel was there. And he goes to Gabriel and says, this has happened. Gabriel was the chief of angelic guards, and when Uriel goes there, he finds that Gabriel is watching angels play these heroic games. Now, Uriel informs him everything, that there's a suspecting spirit with shape-shifting abilities has entered this place, and he suspects it's one of the fallen angels. He is not sure that it is Satan or not. He says that maybe somebody from that hell who were punished by God, one of them has escaped. So Gabriel says, I'll look into the matter, I'll identify who the person is, who the angel is. And Uriel returns to his post. So this is happening on one side of paradise. We are taken back to Adam and Eve. They are now, it's like sunset, and they want to retire to their this beautiful grove, which is again described as a very wonderfully pristine place, natural beauty. And we have this conversation between Adam and Eve again. And Eve says something very interesting to Adam. She says, when Adam first tells her that let's get to sleep, and he even talks about the fact that they have to maintain this garden and it takes a lot of work and they need extra hands, so they need kids. Well, so giving birth to children is seen as a necessity for survival, for perpetuating God's word. So it's more like a duty for Adam. So there is no element of lust, there is no element of sexual desire, but an element of, you can say, a duty which they must perform. It is ordained. And Eve, she is not saying no to him, because good women don't say no to their husbands. And she says, my author and disposer, what thou biddest unargued I obey. So God ordains, that is the order of God. God is thy law, thou mine. So you have your set of instructions from God, I have my set of instructions from you. So there's a clear hierarchy here, and Eve is telling that she respects it. To know no more is woman's happiest knowledge and her praise. So women should not know more than she is allowed to know by the man of her life. But soon we see that although she is saying all these things, she begins to ask these questions. Why does this happen? Why does that happen? And these questions are about life, about the things she's seeing around her. So for her, life is not about following just the orders of God or Adam. For her, life is about experiencing everything with her senses. And then she asks about the stars. That, see, the stars are there. We thought they are shining for us, but then when we sleep, they still shine. Why do they shine when we are asleep? And she says, it must be a waste. And then Adam replies that, though unbeheld in deep of night, shine not in vain. And don't think that, though men were none, that heaven would want spectators. He says that human beings are not the only source of glory to God. God has many creatures who will glorify him, who will praise him, even when we are not there. So Adam is behaving as if he is the source of wisdom for Eve. And Eve, whatever questions she has, she is asking Adam. If you call Milton sexist, I won't blame you for it. Yes, he is, if not overtly misogynist in that way, because he describes Eve as beautiful too. So we give him some points there. But he is definitely giving you a very one-sided picture here. Because Eve is not just any one woman. She is representing the start of womanhood. So in a way, she is the root of every woman. So everything in her is given more prominence because we can't discard her as one among many. She is the only woman in question here, the only woman existing at the moment. So she is representing entire womanhood, the entire collection of women. And then we feel that we can't blame Milton. He was saying what the heavenly muse told him to. He already told us, right, twice. Once in book 1, once in book 3, that whatever I'm saying, heavenly muse is telling me. If the heavenly muse is telling him this, then blame the heavenly muse if you can. He has already given his disclaimer. So evening falls, Adam and Eve, they retire to this leafy bower, this grove, and inside they engage in sexual intercourse. And then Milton says that this is not sinful because they have not yet fallen. So there is no lust in them, it's commitment. And he actually praises marital love, and he says, "Hail, wedded love, mysterious law, true source of human offspring." So marriage is source of human offspring. That was his idea. Sole propriety in paradise of all things common else. So everything was common, this was special. Marital love. Who is saying this? A man who has been married so many times just because there was not the right girl for him. Milton asserts that only our destroyer, that is Satan, would condemn sex as evil. Okay. They fall asleep, and Milton is being very sad here. In the beginning of this book, he was saying, only if they would not fall. Again, the same kind of sadness is echoed when he's saying, "Sleep on, blessed pair, and oh, yet happiest, if you seek no happier state, and know to know no more." Don't try to know more than you should, because knowledge is not power here. Knowledge is death. We go back to the angelic guards. What was Gabriel doing now? Now, Gabriel sends angels to find Satan in paradise. He sends Ithuriel and Xiphon. He says, go look for this angel. And then they go and search, and they finally see that there's this toad right next to Eve. Okay, and it was actually Satan disguised as this toad. So you see, in the scale of transformation, Satan is further deteriorating from angel to inferior angel to cormorant to four-legged creatures, and then finally the toad. So it's kind of a reverse evolution process. So he becomes a toad. And why does he become a toad? Because he sits near Eve when she is sleeping, and he knows that while asleep, he can enter her unconscious and influence her in her dreams, put fantasies and visions and stuff. Milton wrote this long before Freud talked about id, ego, superego. So prophetic there too. And the way he is showing that Satan could identify that this is the weaker target. I can influence this mind. Okay. So what Ithuriel and Xiphon do when they see that toad is there and they can identify there's something wrong with the toad, and they stick it with their wand. And when, because their wand is divine, when it touches the toad, he can't stay in that disguised state, and Satan comes out of that toad. Now, Satan is very wounded in his pride, like, how dare you? And he says, know you not then, said Satan, filled with scorn. Why is so angry? Because these are inferior angels. Who are these? They're coming here and forcing me to do something. Know you not me? You knew me once, no mate for you. I was not your level of angel. Was not mate with you. There, sitting where you durst not soar. I was there, up there, where you couldn't even dare to go. I was so up there. Not to know me, argues yourselves unknown, the lowest of your throng. You are nobody because you don't even know me. And then they say, whoever you are, you're lost. So he mocks the angels, but the angels mock him back. Look at you. What are you now? And then he demands to meet the leader. Take me to Gabriel. He is of my level. Gabriel confronts Satan. Why are you disturbing Eve and Adam, and you please, why did you come out of hell? Explain yourself. Satan says, if you were in hell, wouldn't you want to come out? And he says, Gabriel, thou hadst in heaven the esteem of wise. I thought you were a wise person, and such I held thee. But this question asked puts me in doubt. I'm really doubtful that you are wise at all or not, because you're asking me this stupid question. We know Satan is the master of oratory. He is the master speaker. And how does he argue here? Lives there who loves his pain. So if you are in hell, you are in pain. So will you love to remain there? No. Who would not, finding way, break loose from hell? I got a chance. I broke free. Go and ask your God to make the gates stronger so that I can't break them. Good logic. And he says, let him surer bar his iron gates. Bar means lock. Lock them in a more sure way, more strong way. If he wants me to be inside hell, if he intends our stay in that dark durance, that's much what was asked. This is what my explanation is. The rest is true. I have told you that I did not come here to harm anybody, and I was not trying to do any such thing. They found me where they say, but that implies not violence or harm. I was not harming them. I was not causing any problem to them. But yes, if you were in hell, you would also want to escape. Satan pretends a kind of innocence, but Gabriel tells him that, see, you are not trustworthy. You were the first rebel. Why should I trust you? And he threatens to drag him back to hell, that I'm going to throw you down again. Satan becomes enraged now. After all, there's a limit to insults that he can take, and he decides to fight Gabriel, like this time with force. No fraud is possible here. So he will have to take recourse to force. So he decides to fight Gabriel. But what happens soon? God intervenes. Right when he was about to fight, God intervenes. How does he intervene? He intervenes in the form of a vision of scales. Scales by which you weigh things. And Gabriel tells Satan, look up there in the sky and look at the scales. What do the scales represent? The scales represent God's power over future. Okay, and on one side is the result of what would happen if Satan fought Gabriel, and what would happen if Satan escaped. So Satan saw that in the vision that he will not be able to escape, because his part of the scale where he would win, that is going up, which means it is lighter. It is a less possibility, much less. And therefore, and the fact is, he understands these things. These are symbolic codes in heaven. And possibly this is a direct reference to the Libra constellation. It's a constellation of stars, which is compared to, a pair of scales by which you measure things. And possibly that star rose in heaven, and in that some kind of special astronomical knowledge is there in Satan, by which he understands that he is not going to win this battle against Gabriel, and he accepts defeat and flies away. And we are left with these questions. Why did the angels let him escape? They could have tied him down, made sure that he is completely finished, but the angels were not given any such orders from God. Why didn't they make paradise more secure after this? If there is a robbery, then any security system becomes more active. Okay, they stop the loopholes, they try to be more committed. Nothing. We'll see that they go on as usual, kind of almost as usual. And the final question, why does Satan single out Eve as the target? And if he does that, is it because Eve was made in that way? And if it was made in that way, was it Eve's fault? To understand these things, we have to see what happens in the next books. For the 5th book, we'll bring it up very shortly, and stay subscribed so that you don't miss the notification once we publish it. So till then, stay happy, Stay subscribed. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye bye.